There is a specific weight to the early morning hours in the Carolinas, a heavy, humid stillness that settles over everything just before the sun actually breaks the horizon. For a man my age, 72 years old, waking up into that silence is a profoundly solitary experience. It is the only time of day when there are no demands on your time, no voices asking for your attention, and no urgent problems to solve. It is just you, the faint gray light filtering through the window blinds, and the immediate, undeniable reality of your own physical condition. You open your eyes, and before you even shift your weight, you take an inventory. You feel the rhythm in your chest. You check the base of your neck for that hard, throbbing tension that used to signal a dangerous day ahead. You feel the weight of your legs under the blankets, waiting to see if they carry that familiar, terrifying sensation of being filled with wet sand. When I wake up now, and all I feel is the quiet, steady circulation of a body that is operating the way it was designed to, the peace that washes over me is absolute. It is the profound relief of a man who spent decades unknowingly walking through a minefield, who has finally learned how to map the safe path home. Today I want to talk to you about the most dangerous 5 minutes of your entire day. A window of time that most of us treat with complete casualness, but that actually holds the power to change our lives permanently. We are going to talk about a massive, dangerous misunderstanding we have all accepted about what it means for the human body to rest. We are going to discuss the silent, invisible mechanics of what happens to your blood when you are completely still for 8 hours. And I am going to walk you through the exact, non-negotiable physical routine I perform under the covers every single morning before I ever allow my feet to touch the floor. A routine that completely eliminated the swelling in my lower legs and brought my stroke risk down to a level that leaves my doctors quietly amazed. I am not talking about complex medical procedures or expensive equipment. I am talking about the mechanical reality of your own plumbing and the simple, daily actions required to keep the pipes from bursting when you first turn the system on. When you grow up the way I did, born in Columbia, South Carolina, back in the 1950s, you are taught a very specific set of rules about work and rest. You are taught that a man works until his body simply cannot take another step, and then he sleeps to recover. Sleep was viewed as the ultimate healing state, a time when the body magically repaired itself just by virtue of being horizontal and unconscious. I carried that belief with me through my entire career in public transit. I spent decades working my way up from the yards to a supervisor desk in Charlotte, dealing with broken equipment, delayed schedules, and the relentless pressure of a city that never stops moving. When I finally got home after a 12-hour shift, my only goal was to collapse into bed. I believed that as long as I was lying down, I was safe. I thought the stillness was protecting me. I thought that putting my head on a pillow was the equivalent of hitting a reset button on my health. But the truth I had to learn the hard way is that pressure rarely rises alone. It rises with the habits we ignore. For years, I ignored the strange things my body was trying to tell me when I woke up. I would open my eyes, throw the covers back, and swing my legs out of bed. The moment my feet hit the floor, I would feel this intense, rushing pressure in my calves, almost like a burning sensation. My ankles would be tight, the skin stretched tight over the joints. Sometimes I would stand up and feel a sudden, violent wave of dizziness that forced me to grab the edge of the dresser just to stay upright. I brushed it all off. I told myself I was just getting older. I told myself my joints were stiff from the heavy work. I completely normalized the fact that the first 10 minutes of my day felt like a physical crisis. I thought my body just needed a cup of coffee to get the engine running. Control begins with what you stop normalizing, and I had normalized the feeling of a vascular system struggling to survive the morning. The realization that changed my life did not come from a textbook. It came from a phone call I received early one Tuesday morning about a man I had worked with for 20 years. Let us call him Arthur. Arthur was a dispatcher, a man who had survived the stress of the transit system and had finally made it to his retirement. He was strong, he seemed healthy, and he was finally getting to enjoy the rest he had earned. The phone call was from his son. Arthur had woken up that morning, sat up, swung his legs out of bed, and stood up to walk to the bathroom. He took 2 steps and collapsed. It was a massive pulmonary embolism. A blood clot that had formed deep in the veins of his leg during the night had broken loose the moment he stood up, traveled through his heart, and lodged in his lungs. He was gone before the ambulance even turned onto his street. The cold, heavy fear that settled into my chest when I heard that news was paralyzing. Arthur had not been running a marathon. He had not been under extreme physical stress. He had simply gotten out of bed. Most people wait for a scare before they change. Arthur did not get the chance to change, but his tragedy became my warning. I went to my doctor shortly after the funeral. I sat in the examination room, feeling the crinkle of the paper beneath me, and I described exactly what I had been feeling every morning. I told him about the burning in my calves, the tight ankles, the dizziness when I stood up. He did not dismiss it as arthritis or simple aging. He leaned back in his chair and explained something that completely shattered my understanding of rest. He told me that for a man my age, with a history of high blood pressure and vascular strain, lying completely still for 8 hours is not a safe state. It is a state of extreme mechanical vulnerability. When you are horizontal and motionless, gravity is no longer pulling the blood down, but more importantly, your muscles are not pushing it back up. The blood in your lower legs pools. It becomes sluggish, it thickens, and in that thick, stagnant pool, the risk of deep vein thrombosis, of microscopic clots forming in the calves, skyrockets. My daughter Danielle, who works alongside nutritionists and understands the clinical side of these things, sat down with me later that week and brought the numbers. She showed me the data explaining why the vast majority of strokes and catastrophic cardiovascular events happen between 6 in the morning and 9 in the morning. It is not a coincidence. When you sleep, your blood pressure drops. But the moment you wake up, your sympathetic nervous system kicks in, flooding your body with stress hormones to get you ready for the day. Your blood pressure suddenly spikes. Your heart rate accelerates. The blood platelets are actually stickier in the morning. If you take that sudden, violent surge of pressure and force it through a vascular system where the blood in the legs has been stagnant and thickening for 8 hours, you are creating the perfect storm for a blockage to break loose or a vessel to fail. I realized that by jumping out of bed the second I woke up, I was essentially playing Russian roulette with my heart. Think about it in terms of the heavy diesel buses I used to supervise. When it is freezing cold outside in Charlotte, you do not just walk out to a bus that has been sitting dead in the yard all night, turn the key, and immediately slam the accelerator to the floor. If you do that, the thick, cold oil cannot lubricate the engine fast enough. The sudden pressure will blow the seals, snap the belts, and destroy the machinery. You have to let it idle. You have to let the fluids warm up, thin out, and circulate slowly through the block. You have to build the air pressure in the braking system gradually. The human cardiovascular system, especially when you cross the threshold of 60 years old, operates on the exact same mechanical principles. My blood was the cold oil. My arteries were the cold lines. And by standing up immediately, I was slamming the accelerator on an engine that had not been primed. A stable life builds a stable body. And I needed to build stability into the very first moments of my day. I realized I needed a system. I needed a deliberate, non-negotiable, operational protocol for getting my body out of a state of rest and into a state of motion without triggering a catastrophe. I sat down with my wife, Gloria. Gloria is the kind of woman who builds her life on consistency. She managed a school front office for decades, which means she understands that chaotic mornings lead to chaotic days. She told me that if the doctor said the stagnant blood in my legs was the problem, then we needed to figure out how to move the blood before we moved the body. I spoke with a physical therapist who specialized in vascular health for seniors, and together we built a routine. It is a routine I now treat with the same absolute reverence as a religious practice. I do not skip it. I do not rush it. I do not care if the house is on fire or if the phone is ringing. I do the work before my feet touch the floor. The routine begins the absolute second I open my eyes. I do not reach for my phone. I do not throw the covers off. I remain entirely flat on my back. The very first thing I do is address the secondary heart in the human body, which is the calf muscles. Your calves are designed to act as powerful pumps, squeezing the veins and forcing the blood against gravity, all the way back up to your chest. But when you are asleep, those pumps are turned off. So lying flat, I point my toes down toward the end of the bed as hard as I possibly can, like I am pressing a heavy gas pedal on a bus. I hold that tension for 3 seconds. Then I pull my toes back up toward my shins as far as they will go, feeling a deep, intense stretch down the back of my leg. I hold that for 3 seconds. I repeat this exact pumping motion 30 times. 1, 2, 3. It is tedious, it is boring, but with every single pump, I visualize that thick, stagnant blood that has pooled in my lower legs, being forcefully pushed up and out of the danger zone. I am manually priming the engine. I am clearing the sludge out of the lines. Once I finish the 30 ankle pumps, my calves usually feel warm. The burning sensation is gone, replaced by the feeling of actual circulation. But the protocol is not finished. The next step is to open the main transit routes in the hips and the groin. Still lying flat, I slowly slide my right heel up the mattress toward my body, bending my knee until it is pointing at the ceiling. I hold it there, letting the hip joint open and allowing the major femoral artery to dilate. Then I slowly push the heel back down until the leg is straight. I do this 10 times on the right leg and then 10 times on the left. This gentle, unweighted movement acts like a massive valve opening in the center of the body. It allows the blood that I just pumped out of my calves to flow freely through the pelvis and up toward the heart without any sudden spikes in blood pressure. It is slow, deliberate maintenance. The final step of the routine, before I even think about sitting up, involves the most powerful tool we have for controlling internal pressure. It involves the lungs. When you breathe shallowly, which most of us do when we first wake up, the pressure in your chest remains high, making it harder for the blood to return from your extremities. So, keeping my legs flat, I place both of my hands over my stomach. I take a deep, slow breath in through my nose, forcing my stomach to rise against my hands, keeping my chest completely still. I feel the absolute bottom of my lungs, holding it for 4 seconds. Then I exhale slowly through my lips, letting my stomach fall. I do this deep diaphragmatic breathing 5 times. What this does mechanically is create a massive negative pressure in the chest cavity. It acts like a giant vacuum, literally sucking the venous blood up from the legs, through the abdomen, and safely into the heart. It also signals the nervous system that there is no emergency, preventing that massive, dangerous spike in stress hormones that causes morning strokes. Ankle pumps, knee slides, deep diaphragmatic breathing. The entire process takes exactly 4 minutes. 4 minutes of absolute, uncompromising discipline before I allow gravity to pull on my body. When I finally roll to my side, push myself up to a seated position, and place my feet on the hardwood floor, the difference is indescribable. There is no burning in the calves. There is no sudden dizziness. The heavy, waterlogged sensation in my ankles is completely gone. I stand up and I feel grounded, stable, and ready to move. The engine is warm. The oil is circulating. The air pressure in the brakes is fully charged. The doctors look at the dramatic reduction in the swelling of my lower extremities and the stabilization of my morning blood pressure, and they are thrilled. They often focus on the medications, but I know exactly what is doing the heavy lifting. The heart pays attention to what we repeat every day. I am not telling you this because I want to give you a medical lecture. I am telling you this because I know how easy it is to treat your body like an appliance that you can just switch on and off. I know how comforting it is to believe that sleep is always safe and that waking up should be instantaneous. But we are not appliances. We are complex, aging machines that require respect and daily, deliberate maintenance. I look at my son Marcus, who spends his days analyzing risk and worrying about my future, and I know that taking 4 minutes every morning to protect my vascular system is the least I can do to give him peace of mind. I think about my 3 grandchildren and the fact that I want to be able to chase them around the yard without feeling like my chest is going to explode. The choices we make in the quiet, unseen moments of our lives are the choices that dictate whether we get to stay in the lives of the people we love. There's still mornings when I wake up tired. There are mornings when the alarm goes off, the room is cold, and every instinct in my body tells me to just jump out of bed and get the day over with. I am human, and the temptation to skip the routine is always there. But then I remember Arthur. I remember the phone call. I remember the cold realization that the distance between a normal morning and a catastrophe is sometimes just the span of a few careless seconds. And so, I stay flat. I point my toes. I pull them back. I slide my heels. I breathe deeply into my stomach. The transformation is never perfect, and I know that I cannot outrun time forever. But I refuse to make it easy for the breakdown to happen. I am in control of the 4 minutes that belong to me. I am still here. I am still learning how to operate this body with the respect it deserves. And tomorrow morning, when the Carolinas are still dark and quiet, I will open my eyes, and I will do the exact same thing again, because a stable life is built one morning at a time.